We're so excited to welcome Daniel Dean to give this presentation. He's from the Baltimore Coffee and Tea Company and has been doing this for a long time, so I think we're going to get to learn a lot. Before we start, I want to welcome Linda to the front, who is the new president of the Friends of Perry Hall Library. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And this program is sponsored by the Friends of the Perry Hall Library. We sponsor several programs each month, and our group helps to pay for some of the speakers that we bring in.
So appreciate that. They're so wonderful.
We also have some other things that go on regularly each month. The first Friday of each month at 10 o'clock, there's a books and conversation that takes place, and people just come and share whatever, a few minutes about whatever book they're reading, and we kind of go around the circle, and it's a nice social time. We also, the third Thursday of every month, there is a book group where we do talk about the same book. We've all read the book and talk about it. That will be happening the third Thursday of this month, and the book is The Jackal's Mistress, and that's the one we'll be doing this month. There will be other things coming up every month. There's a couple things. If you are interested in becoming one of the friends who help support these type things, we have many brochures. It's like this. There's some over on the rack over there. There's some out. We have a bulletin board each month where you can pick up a flyer that'll tell you what the friends are doing. There's many programs in the library. The one that'll say the Friends programs that's just the ones that we sponsor. And I encourage you to pick up a brochure, and if you are so moved, you can join the Friends. So, thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
If somebody could give me a half an hour, once we're a half an hour in, just a time check, that'd be you. All right. So yeah, once again, I'm Daniel Dean. For anybody who has just come in or missed what they were saying there, these teas, you're more than welcome to come up even during the presentation. I'm kind of laid back with presentations and everything. Kind of a little bit too hot, otherwise I'd have my shirt tucked in at least. But with this, you can come up, try samples over here. The one on the right-hand side is a Darjeeling tea. It is a grade 1 finest Tippy Golden Flowery Orange Pecco tea, which I'll explain what that is, and it tastes like an autumnal tea. On the right side, and then on the left side, closest to the door, that is a Black Dragon Oolong tea. That one's a Taiwanese tea. Both of these we carry loose leaf at the company I work for, and provide as well. They are two of my favorite teas that, from where I work, compared to stuff that we don't necessarily carry. With any business, you have to look at your sort of demographic of who's purchasing the tea and what your best sellers are and the styles that you get. So those are two of my favorite that we provide. Once again, I work for Baltimore Coffee and Tea, which also owns Eastern Shore Tea Company. We're all kind of together. Essentially, they bought Eastern Shore Tea Company around 1999, I believe it was. It was an elderly couple that was running a tea business out of their large barn on the Eastern Shore, hence why it's Eastern Shore Tea. We are located in Timonium, Maryland, though, but that's where the Eastern Shore Tea comes from. One of our owners has, his family's been in the coffee business since 1895, and his cousin owns a coffee company, but that's with the Baltimore Coffee and Tea. So they bought Eastern Shore Tea and merged the two companies where we have both of them, and we have two different labels. So if you go on baltcoffee.com, you're more than welcome to glance through. I run the wholesale side of things. I started out on the tea side with Eastern Shore Tea. I flavored, I blended teas. I knew what was coming in and out as far as ordering goes. It's an interesting process. We do it all in Timonium. And a lot of the companies will follow kind of the same format after it comes out of their countries of origin. So with that, I will have a short video also in there of some of the machinery and equipment from my younger, slightly thinner days in there as well that I added in when they took a video of me doing my work from the tea side. Currently now, since 2015, I started with on the tea side in 2005. a couple years after high school, and I worked at Petco, and I had a couple other jobs. I got interested in tea, and then during an interview to become a barista out in the store, I talked my head off about tea, and Marcia, the woman who was running it at the time, she said, "You know a lot about tea. I want to hire you as a barista, but the tea side is actually hiring. Would you be interested in applying for the wholesale, warehouse side of tea?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to. I really enjoy tea, and pay was a little bit better." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go and interview." Everything worked out back then. It was one of the good things about the company I work for is it's a family-owned business, and even though I'm not family, they still treat you like family to a lot of the employees there. So it's a nice aspect. Linda, my old boss, one of the requirements of me in there, which may sound bad, but we all had to dance. I had to learn Disney music because we were fun. They were listening to Disney music as I'm running the teabag machine, so I had to learn Gaston's part from Beauty and the Beast. So it's a nice company to work for. All right. So what is tea? Do many of you here drink tea? I see people getting up and drinking tea, so I assume, okay. So for all of my years of tea, I don't read Latin, so forgive me if I always mispronounce it. I forget and then I remember. But this is the plant it comes from. Is it Camellia sinensis tea? Or is that the proper pronunciation of it? Close enough. So it all comes from one plant, essentially. However, there are different varietals of the plant itself. Or should I say varieties. Varietals a lot of times designates the countries, but and that does partially do it as well, but it all comes from one type of plant. We won't get into herbals, but a lot of people consider and call it tea when you have a hibiscus, chamomile, spearmint, peppermint, but that is not official tea. So we're talking about official tea today, and the stuff that you can add with tea. You can always put that in, because I've learned a lot about hibiscus and all these other herbs, because we do blends of teas as well, and all these get added in for a chai or anything that has spices, or a Moroccan mint where you have a gunpowder tea and spearmint added in for different cultures and the types of tea they serve around the world. I kept this fairly vague. It could grow from 3 foot to 66 foot. When you see the tea plants, a lot of the time they are pruned back and they're kept at a certain height, so people taking the tea leaves, normally the 2 leaves in the bud from the tea, can pick them easily. There are ones where they're still in trees. There's wild plants. They can live over a century, over 100 years old. So there are a lot. Kind of think of it like bonsai trees, where you keep them a certain height, as long as they have the root growth in there, whether they need it or not, they live a long time. Some of the older bushes will produce a more bitter taste to them. So, and same with where it's located on the tea plant. So there's a lot of people that want a more bitter tea. Those are the larger leaves that you get from tea, and they're located a little bit lower. Most people like the 2 leaves in the bud at the top when they're picking them, because those are the new growth. They're also the ones that are used in a lot of higher quality teas compared to your kind of everyday tea varieties. Produces peak years 30 to 50 years. Once again, every single book that I have here has it slightly different. Every single website you go on will have it slightly different. It all depends on whether or not you're following a tea culture from India, from a tea culture from China, Taiwan, Japan. All of it is where they consider the best quality teas will somewhat differ depending on where you're at. So that is the tea plant itself. If you want to pass this around, here's a picture of the flower. You can buy tea seeds and you can grow them. These did not germinate for me back when I got them, but this is what a tea seed looks like if you want to pass it around. You can see it on there. But you can buy them, fairly inexpensive. Just like a lot of people kind of have a fun coffee plant or fun pineapple plant. You can do the same with tea. With tea in the United States, one of the issues is our climate doesn't produce the best teas as compared to other countries. Altitude factors in, your soil. If your soil is closer to an Indonesian country, you have more of the volcanic soils in there. If you have a higher altitude, you have the growth of the plants are a little bit slower, more concentration of the tips and the buds. But essentially all that factors into the ultimate taste of the tea once it's being harvested. All right, so here are the varieties of those teas I mentioned, all coming from the same general plant. They found a wild bush in Assam in the 1800s, hence the one that's Assamica over there. Normally the third one is a Cambodian plant that's more represented, but these are essentially it as far as where you're going to get your tea from. Your primary one being the one I've already mentioned. That is more of a cold weather climate bush. So for teas grown in China, they're more cold weather compared to India and some of the other countries. Kenya is a large producing tea place as well. They're coming up, I believe, third now. I believe it's one of the last questions on there in my slides, but what is the most drunk beverage in the world?
Water.
Water, correct. It was a trick question. What is the second most drunk beverage? Tea. Tea's still beating out coffee. Coffee's coming up a third now. The fourth one, I looked it up, and I think it is considered sodas, basically. Coca-Cola is the top drunk in the world. But yeah, as far as your general varieties, I don't know if they counted juices, though. I don't know. Juices were not listed on there at all when I verified. Because this has changed, little changes. I wanted to make sure. It's been a while since I've done a tea presentation. So yeah, your China variety is your cold weather one. Assam and the plants from India, the majority of them will taste slightly different because they found a wild bush, and we'll get into that with how tea was transferred out of the different countries and became more worldwide than what it was. And then you have another variety there from Vietnam, which is coming up pretty big now too. All right, the legend. All right, this has always been considered a legend. It's like if you know coffee, you hear about a goat in Ethiopia that was eating beans, and the farmer saw that the goat was acting more hyper, and then they started using coffee in there. Don't know if it's true at all, but that's the legend. Toss it in with all other legends. This legend here was with Shen Nung in 2737 BC. He was sitting underneath of a tree, and the story goes they would boil water for sanitary conditions then and to purify the water. A few leaves floated over from a bush and landed in his hot water. He was basically a herbalist of the time, and he had a few nicknames. Divine Farmer they have in there as well. And he tasted it and said, "This tastes fantastic," and he noticed how it affected him. So that is the origins of how tea was discovered as far as the legend goes. So take it or leave it as it is. That's what most people accept. I thought this was one of the best sort of prints out there on him. There is no actual depictions of him from the time period, but this is one of the earlier ones from when they depicted him in the 1500s. All right, so the first real book written on it, and the book that is still around is Lu Yu's Cha Jing. You'll see it spelled different times. If you do a Google search and want to get a copy of the book, I don't know if I brought a copy of the book. Did I bring a copy? No, I brought the 1906 book that's famous, but you can get copies of this online in translations. There is a nice poem that was written about him. He essentially wrote the first very in-depth of how you should drink tea. This is more of a cultural aspect compared to how we drink tea today. We toss it in anything that we want to. And you'll see this with more of the Chinese and the Japanese cultures, where there is a certain method you should follow for the type of wood you're using, how it's heated, how hot the water gets, proper methods for it being more of a formal event rather than a recreational event. It was treated more as a medicine as well for its medicinal uses, settling stomachs and stuff like that. We don't talk about a lot of the health benefits. I try not to talk a lot about health benefits, just to stay out of trouble with FDA and everything else. We put very vague information, as most companies will, of what you can and can't say, because you don't want to say anything that is incorrect on there. but you know the aspects of what you get out of caffeine. You get more energy, you stay awake a little bit longer. Tea is a little bit better than coffee because tea has theanine in it. So you have theanine that is a gradual drop in your energy compared to coffee with the caffeine, nothing interacting with it. So if you drink coffee and you drink caffeine, you're gonna have a crash kind of once that stuff wears off of you. Tea is more of a gentle drop where you are less likely to just want to go to sleep at the end of the day. You can drink it throughout the day and it's a little bit lighter. One of the things, if you are caffeine sensitive, I did bring some decaf teas as well. If we run out of tea bags there, I got more tea bags here too. Like I said, I don't want to carry stuff back with me. I am recording it, so if my company listens to me, sorry, I'm getting rid of all of our tea, the tea that I brought, because I don't want to travel back with it. But there are some decaf teas in there as well. But if you want to decaffeinate your own tea, you can get it out roughly about 90+% in there because caffeine is highly water soluble. So you essentially can brew and pour hot water over your tea bag, or if you're doing loose leaf tea, give it about 10 to 30 seconds, dump out that water. The majority of your caffeine's in that water, and then pour in hot water and brew your cup of tea. So if you don't have any on hand, or if that's anything available, you can get out the majority of the caffeine with its high water solubility, knock it out that way. So, other thing with, I prefer, even if I wanted decaf tea, I prefer decaffeinated. I mean, because the decaffeinating process, tea doesn't go rancid or bad in that aspect that you think of. You can drink tea will go with pu'er tea, which is even aged longer, but you can drink tea and you're not most likely going to get sick from it. However, it becomes less flavorful, less flavorful over time. With that said, you also want to keep in mind that if you get tea bags or anything like that, they're exposed to more air, so they will lose flavor more quickly over time. So that's just another thing to kind of keep in mind with your tea, keep it fresh. When you get decaffeinated tea, it has to go somewhere else to get decaffeinated. So the timeline of it being harvested and the timeline of you drinking it, that extends out a period of time, meaning that is losing its flavor. You're not going to lose the majority of the flavor from that, but it has to go, and the process they use now is using a carbon dioxide method. It used to be ethanol acetate method. Some countries still use it. I believe the US banned it. I think it's still banned. Essentially because if you do it wrong, it's a poison. So if you ethanol acetate, if somebody did it wrong, which never really happened, but as a precaution, they use carbon dioxide now as a method to extract caffeine. Coffee, ours uses a Swiss water process, which is a whole separate thing. But you've now prolonged your time period if you get a decaf tea. So fresher teas are normally, and you won't find any of the more expensive or higher quality teas in a decaf variety because of that aspect. Nobody's going to buy a grade 1 Darjeeling decaffeinated compared to just the regular decaf, the lower on the level. So, if any of you got time to read the little poem there, it's just a nice little poem about Lu Yu. So he was very adamant about tea. I made a very simplified version of how did it spread across the world. One of the things I left on here was the template. You can read here, this has nothing to do with tea, but it just gives me a little bit of say with this here. So Japan, circa 1805, there was a monk who brought over, after visiting China, he brought over some of the tea plants. And relations deteriorated over time after this aspect, and Japan didn't really pick up on producing tea that much with it. So that came more with pronunciation Eisai in the 12th century. So the first Japanese monk went and they shared tea with him. He brought it over to Japan, they drank it some, the emperors, everything, and then relationships deteriorated between Japan and China. Once they started getting better again, Issei went back over there, he brought seeds back, and he brought back their method of drinking powdered tea. And this is where the Japanese Chanoyu, the tea ceremony starts to take place because he brought back traditions from China, and they started their own methods, and especially with drinking powdered tea. With Europe, they don't know if it was the Dutch or the Portuguese first, but it was the early 17th century, and then it grew within a few countries from different places. It grew into Russia, it grew into a couple different places of people trying tea during that time. Britain, London. All right, so Thomas Garraway with the Opium Wars. So essentially, Britain and London had issues with China because of them being provided with opium, and China said, we don't want you providing opium to our people anymore, and then they had to figure out a way to have their own tea during the Opium Wars. So what they did is, this is where they started looking into what they could do to bring it in, and that's where we start moving into the colonization of Britain into India, where tea is introduced into India in the they find a native plant in 1823, but they also bring over a bunch of plants too, so they can kind of cut ties with the Chinese if they need to. So they're not reliant on one country for the tea at that, in that era. And then for us here in the United States, do you know why tea isn't as popular now? This is just one of those fun fact ones. Do you know why we're drinking coffee more so than we drink tea?
Boston Tea Party?
Yes, Boston Tea Party, the revolution. When you get a bunch of taxes on tea and you want to tell somebody, hey, forget you, in the nicest way possible, you stop bringing in the tea to them. They switched over to some herbals from the Native Americans, but essentially you have a lot of coffee becomes more popular because they didn't have to pay the taxes on the coffee. So if that never happened, we would be drinking more tea, and my coffee would be, Eastern Shore tea more so than Baltimore coffee. So that's how the United States essentially kind of grew to where it is now. However, we were drinking tea. The tea from colonial times is not like the tea you're drinking now. Once again, a lot of our teas come from India, which was 1800s, so a lot of our teas come from different places. The oolong tea that I have on the left-hand side, a mixture of that and lapsang souchong, which I'll pass around. So I'm gonna pass around some bags. And none of them are labeled because I know what they are, but nobody else does. So you can feel free if you want to pass one group. So this is a Ceylon tea, Sri Lanka. So that's a black tea from
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Okay, Sri Lanka is going to go on this side right now.
Yeah. And if anybody forgets or wants to know, you can just ask me. That's a Yunnan tea.
This is Yunnan.
Yunnan, China.
Yunnan, China, going on this side.
Okay, this is a gunpowder green. This one's easy to recognize because it's rolled in little balls. Gunpowder
Did
green.
somebody roll it up?
Yes, I'll get into that with the process. That is actually done in like large cast iron, and they rub them around.
So this is
and roll them.
gunpowder.
Yep. If anybody is feeling sick or anything, the best way to do it is you open the bag up, you can blow some of the air out and waft it towards you. This is the lapsang souchong.
Saying souchong from.
This here you will recognize.
Whoa, it smells like smoke.
Yes. So, from colonial times, the tea that most people were drinking was a bohea tea, which was normally either a oolong tea or a mixture of lapsang, souchong, and oolong. They were not drinking black tea like we drink today. That is partially dried over smoke.
Is that the one that you get in big cakes?
No, that's pu'er tea. That has more of an earthy dirt taste
Yeah,
to it.
I
Yeah.
got that one.
I like that dirt
This
tea.
tastes like dirt and
Yeah, this one, the lapsang souchong, I recommend for people that are out camping or people that are smokers. So those I found are the two demographics that like it. It's a campfire one or
Could you remind us what this one was? The first one?
the first one was Ceylon. Yeah, it's from Sri Lanka. Ceylon was the old name for Sri Lanka. The tea is still called Ceylon tea. And here's a steamed sencha. So compare this to the gunpowder tea that you see. This is a green tea, the gunpowder is a green tea.
Can I set this one back this side?
Yeah, wherever you want to put it. And then this one here that looks like full leaves, this is easy to recognize, is a white tea.
Okay,
It
so
is the
what's
least
this one
processed.
again?
This one's the Yunnan.
Yunnan.
Yeah, Yunnan. You can see the little yellow strands in the Yunnan.
Well, it's trying to Yunnan. All right.
It is from the same region that makes that
White
pu'er
tea.
tea, so that one has more of the
Very
earthy
tasty.
taste to it.
I'm having a fun time. All right, and
And
what,
here's
this one
a-
that's gonna to get me arrested?
That's sencha.
Sencha.
So that's a lower, not a lower grade sencha, but that's just your kind of standard everyday sencha. This one here,
Where's sencha from?
this one, I believe this one's a China sencha. Normally they're from Japan, but China and Japan both produce them. This one has a floral smell. This is your jasmine tea.
Oh, I can ID jasmine.
Normally it's made with an
Yes.
oolong,
Ah,
and it's in between and it has flowers in it.
All
And
right.
if you smell the lapsang and want to get that scent out of your nose, smell
Hold on,
the.
is it gunpowder? Okay, let's see now it's.
So that brings us to our harvesting section here.
All right, so this is.
That's this, the
Okay, over there, so it's here. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So harvesting, that's what makes tea taste that way. So all these are from, so think about it, they're all from the same plant. And you can see how different they are, depending on how they're processed, how they're dried, if there's anything added to them. I try not to include the jasmine in there, but the lapsang is just smoke in there. So it all depends on how they're harvested and processed. White tea, which is the one that has the bigger leaves in them, the full leaf tea, is the least processed of the teas. It is just withered and dried. Withered and dried. So they just dry the leaves. If you had a tea plant, that's your easiest way to do it. Just take your leaves, let them wither a little bit and dry.
Is that why it has the highest caffeine?
Caffeine's a little bit yes, a little bit variable. So for the caffeine content, this gentleman asked about caffeine. Normally, you don't lose caffeine when stuff is processed. You're not getting rid of caffeine just because you're letting it sit out. However, caffeine is going to have a higher caffeine content on the quality. If they're just using the 2 leaves and the buds, where that concentration is in there compared to something that's dispersed and the larger leaf, you have more caffeine and higher quality teas. By pound, tea has more caffeine than coffee, but you're not using the same amount of tea. When you make a cup of tea, you're using about 2 grams. When you're making a cup of coffee, you're using 7 grams. But tea technically has more caffeine per pound.
Maybe this one is.
This is that Yunnan.
That's the Yunnan again. Is that what the gunpowder? No, that's not.
The smoky is the lapsang. Yeah. So green tea is next. If you don't like green tea, you want to do something like a oolong tea. If you want to move into green tea because you think it's healthier, it's not that far different. I mean, you're not. Just because it's a black tea doesn't mean that it's losing a lot of the nutrients or anything like that. But if you want to start drinking more of a green tea, the oolong tea, which is on the left side, is the way to go because it's in between. Tea oxidizes. The easiest way to think about this is when you peel a banana, that banana peel is yellow, and then as it gets crumpled up and sits in the trash or moves around, it turns black. That's oxidization. That's why you have black tea. It is a green tea. It breaks down the cell walls. You're moving them around. And it's no different than your banana peel, where it turns dark. It's not fermentation, it's oxidization. Fermentation only really happens with the pu'er. You're not doing stuff like soybeans.
The big thing now is the matcha.
Matcha, a lot of people like matcha. It's going to be the highest in caffeine, not with quality, and you're ingesting it. So you're eating the leaves. Matcha is the powder. And I have matcha, and I was going to heat up some water, and here's matcha powder. I can show you how that's done in the second half. Matcha is big because you're ingesting the leaf. You're getting the most health benefits out of it. You can do it with any of your tea leaves. We had a customer that bought black tea leaves, and they mixed them in with their cookies. So they added flavor to their cookies. Tea leaves are edible. It's the same thing when you get chocolate-covered espresso beans. You're eating the beans of that, you're ingesting it. You're getting more caffeine because you're ingesting it, not just the extraction and stuff is left in there. But a lot of people will add green tea to their rice dishes. Or if you're boiling water for rice or noodles or anything. I have cup of noodles, I forget what brand it is, but it has tea in it. So you can actually add in, if you want a little bit of flavor, you can also, if you make your own, you can add a little bit less salt in it if you don't want as much sodium. But you can add in tea for flavor to anything. So matcha is a big one there. Matcha, you're ingesting the leaf compared to the other ones where you're steeping the leaves and you're getting rid of them. All right, so your black tea is you have it withered, rolled, fully oxidized, and dried. So once again, the full oxidization is that banana peel. Now, with the green teas, the withered, and then the pan-fired and the steamed. Sencha, steamed. You see the flat leaves, it's steamed. It's gonna have more of a grassy, seaweedy taste. Pan-fried is gonna be a little bit of a darker, smokier, not like lapsang, but kind of that smokier type taste there. That is pan-fried. They actually have people rolling those leaves in pans. So, you know, where you touch a warm cast iron pan, there's people that hand roll them. Some of the things that you may not realize about the countries of origin too, and when you want to look at different things is, here's the processing of some of the black tea in India. So they're drying these on tile floors. So they're breaking down the cell walls. You see his whisk there? Like I said, I'm gonna get a little old school with, imagine this is one of the children's programs where you're taking around the book to read. So he has a whisk there, he's breaking down the cell walls, they're drying the tea on tiles. So this is part of the processing in India. I forget if this is Assam or Darjeeling or one of them. This one's actually Ceylon, so this is Sri Lanka. But they all do it the same way. When I talk about tea, there's different grades of tea as well. So for the Darjeeling, it's called a finest tippy golden flowery orange pecco, grade 1, and it's audible. Each one of those letters, or in front of that, is normally just the letters. So FT, GOP, whatever, of those letters. They all mean something of where that was plucked and in the processing of it. So you could get broken orange pecco, BOP, broken orange pecco tea, where it's the orange pecco, which is 2 leaves in the bud, and it's broken. They run them through sifters, so you have different sizes. So you have your full leaf tea, and then you have sifters, and you have your broken orange pecco, all the way down to tea fannings and tea dust. Our company does not use tea dust. If you go to the dollar store, you'd be drinking tea dust. Tea fannings would be the lowest. One of the myths is if you get tea bag sized tea, or if you're using fannings, or if you're using a broken orange pecco, the quality is less. Not true. The quality is still the same, it's just what got sifted through of the leaves that are whole compared to the leaves half an hour mark, compared to the leaves that are past that level. We don't get fannings because here in the United States, so here's tea processing in southern India. So you see the tea leaves on the side and you see the bowls. You see how she's walking with bare feet through the tea leaves that are scattered on the floor. That's your tea dust. So those get swept up because they're not wasting the money on your tea. When they're exporting it out of their country, all that's already on the floor, and they're not wasting the money on the tea. So those are exported out, and a lot of that will become the dust.
So if you buy Tetley's or Lipton's, you're getting in the bags, you're getting the dust?
No.
Oh.
So Tetley's, and just like ours, we do tea bags. We actually cut our full leaf tea to tea bag size. So except for some of the decaf teas, those are actually cut. Even the broken orange peccos and stuff like that, most companies like Lipton, Tetley, Stash, Jackson's of Piccadilly, anybody producing tea bags, essentially are using a little bit better quality tea. This is more, no offense to the dollar store, but when you get an off-brand and you can buy more than 100 tea bags for $1. So, once again, you don't want to restrict it, no matter where you kind of fall into the thought process of sanitation or anything like that. Once again, this is still an economy for people. It's still an economy for people who can't afford better quality tea. Do you limit and say, hey, you can't drink tea because we, as people that are privileged enough to say we want stuff that's not on, it falls into its whole spectrum of controversy and debate. But this has been going on for multiple years, and it just kind of is how it is. You also have fair trade and organic teas as well that you can get as well. Most of the time they go to the organizations and don't fall to the people. There's tea fields in places. So these are tea fields. I took a vacation to Japan in 2006, 2005, and you see tea plantations as they're traveling down the road. So those were the pictures from there. And if you guys want to kind of pass around the book or want to check it out here, if anybody wants to look through the pictures, that is the most beautiful book for pictures, as far as pictures go. Sorry, I'm pulling out the little notes from it. All right, so what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to heat up some water again, and I'm going to do a tea tasting. This is more used for your Indian teas, more for, depending on where you're at. So I have a tea tasting set there. and you can see the leaves. So when you're tasting tea, you have different brewing temperatures in there. And then you have, this one here is one of the best ones I found because they also add in the Gong Fu style. But most things will recommend boiling water. That's the simplest thing. But with boiling water, you're taking out a lot of the oxygen of it. It's too hot. I normally, if you want the amino acids, which is what gives the tea the flavor, if you want the amino acid, the taste of tea, it has to be at least 174-ish degrees Fahrenheit. That dissolves the flavors in your tea, and you're good with that. Unless you're doing like a sun tea and you're allowing it for a much longer time to sit and soak. I don't like sun tea because you're also letting bacteria grow by setting it in the sun on your porch. But 174 degrees is normally what I brew the majority with, and maybe a little bit more for a pu'er. Pu'ers, because they're aged, you normally drink them, and I'll show you some of the pu'ers. So I'm going to show you how these cups work, since we're at the half-an-hour mark. Some of the things that you look for when doing a tea tasting is the color of your liquid. So people won't pass this book around here. Some of the things you want to look for is you look at your dry leaf. Your dry leaf should be even, curled properly, everything along those lines. Let me see if this is still hard enough. What I'm also going to start doing here, and you guys can see, this is more of a novelty. These are little tea balls. They were a lot easier before trade restrictions came into place, where I could order these online for essentially around $1 a piece. These are tightly wrapped tea balls, and they actually will bloom into a cool looking flower. So this is the tea tasting cups that I mentioned here. You normally have a bowl. I think this one came with a saucer. I might have left that one at work. But it has the bowl for tasting the tea. It has a toothed cup, and it has a lid. When you're tasting tea, just like you guys saw the bags of tea come by you, you want to look at how even the leaves are. And I'm going to do it with the oolong that I have here, just the right amount for it. So you look at the leaves dry. Then you watch them as they brew, and you want to see how they unfurl. Then you look at them when they're wet, and then you look at it after the process is done. So you're adding in all these factors. It adds into what used to be the standard for tea tasting. We used to have a board for the United States where they would check and make sure in the 1920s, back when tea was a little bit more popular, they would check and make sure the tea coming in was up to standards. They don't really do that much anymore. They don't really do that at all. You have certification. We get ours from brokers, and the brokers have warehouses, and then we know where it's coming from. But we do our own tastings at our company because we want to make sure the quality is still the same. So if you're doing a tasting, you put the tea leaves directly in the cup, and then you're going to pour the hot water in.
So that's going to be 218 or whatever boiling, right?
Yeah, it should be 174. I don't have a temperature. I do have a temperature gauge. I brought it's good to have a liquid thermometer.
So you like it lower?
Yeah, I prefer it lower. You don't want to scald the leaves. If you're doing a pu'er tea, yeah, that's fine. And this one caps off at 178 because I didn't let it get to a rolling boil.
Oh.
So there's 178 there. You can kind of verify that I'm not lying there. It's dropping, it's dropping, it's dropping. It's going to look like 160 in a minute. Yeah. Yeah, you just said it here. I'm the only one drinking off of that. I don't mind if it hits the table. So, with your water, one of the books here, and we'll pass that around here, you have different classifications where we're saying white tea, oolong tea, green tea, black tea. They further classify it into yellow teas, and they have red teas. And this is an awesome book for that. And you can see here one of the white teas that we consider a white tea is actually called a yellow tea with China, if you guys want to pass that around. And that's I think that's the silver needle tea. So they classify it even further. So compared to more of the European, Western world classifications, it's slightly different. So I'm letting that brew there. I'm going to start this heating up here. So you can see what this looks like. These novelty teas you can normally get still, but they're a little bit more expensive. I like the Chinese style of where they call it crab eye, fish eye, and old man water. When you're boiling your water, first you see those little bubbles. When it's the size of a crab eye, that's crab eye. When it gets to the size of a fish eye, you have fish eye, and then the rolling boil is your old man water. You want fish eye most of the time. Fish eye water is where it's supposed to be at. Old man, you're losing all the oxygen, and they call it old man water. Crab eye is a little bit too not hot enough yet. So fish eye, when the bubbles are about the size of a fish's eye, that's when you normally want to have your water cooled. If you're not using a thermometer and all this other stuff.
What about whistling?
The what?
What do you think about whistling tea kettles?
Whistling tea kettles, that's going to whistle when you get boiled. Same thing with this one. This one here automatically shuts off when it boils because there's enough action and there's enough steam pouring off of it that you're gonna. I take mine off if I have a whistling tea kettle. It would be when you start hearing it rumble,
Yes.
and hearing it rumble for maybe about 30 seconds, 40 seconds before that whistle comes. What to look for, kind of went over that. The taste, the visual, the smell, leaves when they're dry, when they're unfolding, when they're, there. You can see here, this is already unfurling for this novelty one. You see the flower coming out, they're hand tied. That's a green tea. And it looks like this one has clover. I don't read Chinese, but if anybody reads Chinese, the kanji lettering there. But you can see the flower coming out of there. These here are super nice. They'll last for 1 or 2 days. The teas are normally horrible. They're more of a visual novelty, but for if you're having like a tea party or something like that, or if you have a vase, you can pour hot water in a vase and they look pretty. Yeah, and they'll unfurl more. They're probably in the next like 5 or so minutes. I'm gonna just leave it, because you can leave it in there for a couple days and then you gotta just empty out the water so it doesn't become slimy. Think about like cut flowers. But yeah, it's a nice visual thing for fun. That's why I brought it here. But I like I said, a lot of times they use a lot of great teas with that.
What causes the colors in the tea?
So the teas are where it gets cut in the process of the oxidization. So with the green teas, the white teas, it's withered and then dried. Hence why the bags with the lighter colored teas are just leaves, and some of them look dark, some of them look light, and they're where they're at. If they were more refined, that's a biobutan. If they were more refined, like the Yixing Silver Needle or one of the other ones, they can stop them at a process where they all look a little bit more uniform. A lot of them will also have the downy fur you'll notice on them because they're younger leaves and they're dried. So they'll look almost like a lamb's wool. I forget the name for it. Yeah. So a lot of times you'll notice that on a white tea and some of the where it's cut off before that. Your green teas are after they're either steamed or pan rolled, so it kind of cuts that process of the color changing. And then your oolongs are kind of in between where they're oxidized slightly, so you'll see a mixture of greens and blacks in there. And then full oxidization, you'll get the black color in there. Hopefully this video works. This is, like I said, I was young and they filmed me running the tea machine. I look a lot lighter in it. So this here is where a machine that cuts the tea. So that's me pushing the tea through, and it's cutting up the tea. Like I said, we use full leaf tea and cut them to tea bag size. So that's full leaf tea being cut, and there's a sifter underneath there. It's called a hammer mill, and it's beating those leaves until they're the size that fall through. And there's your hand cut tea that will go into tea bags. We sell the tea loose as well, if you want loose. This is the machine I used to run.
Is that you?
Yeah, look how thin I was. Look how thin and handsome. Make sure to mark that down if anybody gives reviews of anything. This is a machine that prints the labels on there, and that was me pouring the tea into the top hopper. We stopped putting on tags and string as an environmental thing. You don't necessarily need them, and they just added up more stuff. I say environmental, it also saves you money too when you don't add on additional things. So all of our tea bags are, like you opened up back there, they don't have tea and strings. Also, it was a nightmare when these strings would get caught up. So it puts them down there, and there's your tea bags there. There's blades cutting them, so it's paper that gets folded over, tea paper, and it cuts them. At a pinch point there, that circular thing underneath the mesa is a blade going around. I crushed my finger on that before and lost a fingernail. So you have to keep and pull the tea bags off that are split open, and you have to do periodic weight. So I still have the movement, knowing how to pull those off of there without cutting my finger off. And there's also, they get pushed into those. There's another blade that's over here, and that is extremely hot, and that heat seals them there. It gets heat sealed where that blade is with the tea paper as well. And there's a pinch point, and it cuts those tea bags. And you'll notice in the next image, there's going to be a claw, and puts them in bundles of 20. These 20 tea bags will go into a red bin, and then they are hand put into dispenser boxes or ribbon bags. I'll take it a little bit slower, but I know we're going to be running out of time soon. And there's not many more slides there. So those are the dispenser boxes. They're no longer cellophane wrapped, another environmental thing, and made it easier, but they do have a seal, so they are non-tamper proof, and they have cardboard, but they aren't in these like wrappers anymore. So one of the things a lot of people don't realize is a lot of this stuff is done by hand. So when you buy your stash or your Twinings or anything like this, you know, unless it is fully automated, our company, we have people and we're employing people to put these tea bags in whatever they're doing. Our owners, back when they were alive, this is Ginny and Angie. That was one of the owner's mothers, and then one of her friends. They would do the ribbon bags, and a lot of their group of retired friends would have a job and do that. We still have people that do it, but they've since passed away. But all this stuff is done by hand, so when you buy our product, it's not all automated. You're employing people, you're giving people jobs. So those bins where the claw put them in, they're hand stuffed in those, and then they're tied up. Any questions on any of this sort of process of just how it ends up? Try to do the start from the cultivation, where tea came from, to the different types of tea, to how it's harvested, to how it ends up in the grocery store. Yes?
Tell us about the type of water you should use.
Yeah, most people try to use spring water, or you don't want distilled water. You don't want anything where the oxygen's taken out, but you want purified water or like a spring water. And it depends.
Not from the tap.
Not from the tap, because you have fluoride in, you have chlorine, you have all different stuff, whatever is in your pipe. I use it from the tap. The biggest thing, if I want to get something through to all of you here, the biggest thing that I've always told everybody on these presentations when I do, you brew tea the way you like it. I don't care what temperatures I say on here. I don't care what types of tea I say. You're drinking it. So if you like it and you want to use rolling, no oxygen water in it, if you like it, you're the one drinking it. I mean, quite honestly, as much as we want to add on these nuances, and you know, I appreciate and I do love the beauty of the methods of, like, say, Shadow and the tea ceremonies. I've been involved in them. I helped my Japanese professor at a library held one many years ago, back when she was still alive, and I assisted her with that. And it's a beautiful thing to get into, and it's a thing that in this book here, they tell you what type of food you should be eating when you do it dependent on the time of year, dependent on your utensils. It is a very expensive hobby if you decide to get into it. Some of the things I brought back from Japan, this is a water ladle that's used for them. This is a thing for the water ladle. I bought a cast iron kettle, and a cast iron kettle that can actually go on the stove. Most of the tetsu beans that you buy now say do not put on the stove. This is one that you can put on the stove because it's a real one, not one for just show and brewing and as a teapot versus a tea kettle. All those things, just that pot alone was like $270 for that. Because it is a way that you show a beautiful culture, but also you're buying the best of the best. Your guests get the best of the best. You bring somebody over, you're gonna have sweets, you're gonna have, you know, your mochi cakes, you're gonna have all this stuff, and you are like, if any of you watched Keeping Up Appearances, the woman who played her just passed away, Hyacinth. Imagine going to one of her afternoon teas. You know she's putting out the nice china, porcelain, whatever. She's putting out all the nicest stuff, and she's putting on a presentation better than what I'm doing here. I mean, if we had hours, these will last a long time. because you're getting, you're getting food in between. All the food is tailored to the stuff. The colors of these bowls, each of these bowls, I have one that I didn't bring. This one is a cheaper one, but I have one that's roughly around $300. This one here, you have different bowls for the different seasons. Because this color here, it's all artistic in how you want to portray everything. The way you set up everything is artistic. The foods that would match this would be artistic. So I highly recommend looking into it. I mean, this has recipes. This is the ultimate book on it right here. This one here, this is one of the books I brought back from Japan. You guys read it the other way around from right to left. But this is the tea ceremony, and you see how many steps are in here? This is literally how many steps are in the tea ceremony. Here it is discussing, I don't read Japanese, but I know what they're talking about, discussing the types of bowls for the different seasons, the types of what holds the matcha tea. This one's one I brought back from Japan, a little lacquer container. So all of those are dependent, and this is the scoop for the matcha. This is the matcha bowl. I committed a full-time blasphemy in the tea world. The matcha whisk, which is a bamboo whisk, I have 2 of them. They have a certain count on how many splits are in the bamboo for whisking the tea. That also factors into the price. I forgot that. So here's my blasphemy of the day. So if you can't afford the money and you want to buy some matcha, some restaurant grade matcha, this isn't ceremonial grade, this is restaurant made. We don't sell, we sell a matcha at work. You can buy that, or I got this at I think this was at H Mart. My dad's hanging out back there. When we went to H Mart, and I forced you to go to the market with me and my son, you can get these for around 15, 20 bucks. They are expensive in the respective tea, but you can add them to ice creams, you can add them to your dishes, you can add them anywhere else. So there's that. Here's the equipment on the tea side at work, which you saw in the video, so I won't get into that.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Where's the manufacturing taking place now, and can you tell us a little bit about the Timonium store?
Everything's taking place in Timonium. So the manufacturing's in the back. So when you go into our retail store, it's a small store off of Business Park Drive. It's an Aylesbury address, but the whole business park is. But we're across the street from Bluestone Restaurant, right next to the train tracks. That's how I describe it to people coming in.
Across the street from where?
Bluestone Restaurant. So Bluestone Restaurant, we're right next to the train tracks. There's a light rail station there if anybody takes light rail. The thing is, it's like going into any sort of cafe. You can look through the window and see the coffee side. You'll see me sitting at my desk and the coffee roaster next to me, who I'm the manager of, and I run that process there. You don't see the tea side. We rarely give tours, especially after COVID, unless it's like an organized group. Because we have so many in and we're going into busy season. If anybody was interested at some point of getting a group together and wanted to walk through, that's essentially 15 minutes to half an hour as I quickly get everybody through so I can get back to work, because I'm the one that'll normally do it. And I would wait until the middle of summertime when it's slow enough. Right now it's crazy time because those ribbon bags, people love anything with a Santa Claus on it, anything with an elf on it, anything with whatever. Same thing, we just came out pumpkin spice season, so everything with a darn pumpkin on it we had to live with. Yes?
How long does it take to produce one batch until like over span of an hour or so?
For the process of what I do with work, it depends. I mean, we have machines that help us out on the coffee end. For the tea end, the machine used to be set when I was running it was at 132 tea bags per minute, more than 1 per second.
Okay.
So that blade was going around more than 1 per second. They had to drop it down because we couldn't get the material that wouldn't keep jamming the machine. So I think she's running at about 80 tea bags per minute. All the tea bags have a date on them too, so you can always check and you can see those are fresh that I brought in. But yeah, so it's roughly that. And then it depends on how much time. We have metrics in there because we want to make sure we're not losing money and whoever's hired. But a lot of the people that are there have been there long term. My staff, my newest staff member, I did hire a couple months ago. But a lot of people, yeah, everything has kind of a metric on it. But you have to factor in, there's time for flavoring the tea. So the tea, if it's a flavored tea, we have teas that are spiced teas like chais and stuff where it gets cloves added, it gets pepper added, cinnamon, all the other stuff. And then we have ones that have flavoring, liquid flavoring that you can't add on easily in other respects. So our honey lemon tea has lemon peels in it, but that doesn't give you a lemon flavor like liquid lemon flavoring does, and the honey flavoring. The honey lemon tea, because there's no sugars in the tea itself, it's a honey lemon tea. It's not going to taste sweet, but if you don't want to add sugar, you're not forced to add sugar, and it's still a flavor. Same thing with coffee ends. On our coffee end, we like it because if you're stuck with the creamers at your supermarket, if you want a flavored coffee, we can produce coffee with flavors on it, and you can put whatever creamer, oat milk, whatever you want on it, and still get the benefits of the flavor. With the teas, it all depends. Dry time for teas is normally, I don't know, 5 to 6 hours. That gets sprayed on compared to the coffee side where it gets poured on and rotated. They both use cement mixers, which I didn't include in there, but they rotate them around in a barrel. And then for the spraying of the flavoring on the tea, they actually are dressed up. If any of you saw Breaking Bad, where they're dressed in the suits with the, making methamphetamines, and it's like a whole thing, a whole outfit. The person who does the flavoring of the tea wears that now because they don't want to inhale the vapor and all that stuff. So you're mixing it around and you're blending it so it gets evenly on the tea, because of the surface area, it'll get stuck in clumps. Coffee is a little bit easier because they're all like little pebbles, balls, and they rotate around, so we could put a lid on it, rotate it around, and it gets dispersed evenly, flavor-wise, everything. So it's kind of hard to put a start to finish on it, but when you're doing it in mass production, then it equates out to the pricing that we have plus, 30%. Yes?
There's always a conversation between using loose teas and bag teas because of how bag teas are treated with some type of chemical.
With bag teas, the tea bags themselves, they aren't like the one video showed. Ours was unbleached or bleach-free, chlorine-free. Most of them are.
Okay.
There's nothing you necessarily need to worry about. The newer ones that promote that are the ones you normally have to worry about because they don't have the testing done. So the nylon tea bags, pyramid tea bags, were the issue for us. Why we were considering going into that, but we're like, it's a newer invention. There's only this amount of time of looking at this in heated water.
Yeah.
Whereas there's all this information from what's been considered safe and FDA approved and everything like that, where we didn't want to put in and start producing something and putting it in hot water, and then 30 years down the road we find out that causes cancer for somebody.
Yeah.
So for us, we've stuck with the same methods. We took off the ink with soy ink and the strings and all that, like you would normally get. We also didn't use staples in there. If you buy tea bags with staples, number one, I don't recommend it as a tea connoisseur. You don't want to toss a tea bag in a microwave with water. But that was one of the big issues. People with the staple, they would actually put in the staple tea bag and put it in the microwave, and then all of a sudden sparks and everything. So, we just produced them without that. So in case if anybody decided to go the less good route, you could still do it safely.
Does your store sell to the public?
Yes, you can come on in. It's just like going into Starbucks or anywhere else. They have all the teas on the shelves. And you can get a cold drink, sandwich, whatever out there. Yeah.
You mentioned before you were talking about the types like dust tea. Is that a safe tea to drink?
Yes, it's safe enough that they allow it in the United States. Now, wherever you want to put safety on there, nobody's really getting sick from it. That's not something that you're necessarily going to.
I like this Egyptian tea called Alrosa.
Yeah.
Dust.
Yeah, and if it's a dust, it's fine. It's been going on. I don't ask what tea bag I'm getting when people make iced tea in a restaurant. I don't necessarily know. Except if it's one of my customers, I know it's supposed to be one of ours, because I run the wholesale. But for the tea, dust, and health stuff, I don't worry about it. Once again, I'm in my 40s now. I'm alive. I'm hoping for the best. That's just kind of how I look at it. If something hit the floor, I was an Eagle Scout and Boy Scouts, and God knows how many times, I don't know, those kids that made, as I grew up in it, and somebody made me scrambled eggs. We had to tell them enough times not to put poison ivy leaves in the fire and branches. So I wouldn't worry about the tea dust. If you like the tea, drink it, and
Loose tea.
yeah, loose tea. Yeah, and if it's a tea dust and you like it, and you're drinking. I'd go with that. Yeah.
If you're on the light rail, it is the Timonium Business Park stop.
Timonium Business. Yes, it is not the Timonium one by Kohl's. Yeah. Yeah, because we have a lot of staff that ride the train, so for us, it's a little bit better when I'm hiring somebody, because I can say, do you have reliable transportation? When they say, I ride the light rail, yep, it's reliable, it comes right to our business, so yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
What have the tariffs done to coffee and tea prices?
So for coffee ends, it's double ours. So I used to sell for wholesale around $5 range for a half a pound of coffee, wholesale. Not what you're buying in the supermarkets. Don't quote me on this price and come in and be like, this gets marked up because we get ship it out, it's bulk and bulk in hundreds and hundreds of pounds. It is now $8.90 something, and my flavors went drastically up. The flavor industry, I'm now selling a pound of coffee just with flavor $13, meaning they're going retail for $21, $22 a pound. Yeah, drastically. The problem with the biggest problem with tariffs is we don't grow coffee and tea in the United States.
Yeah.
So there's no way we can actually get around this. So what we've had to do is we've had to substitute from countries with lower tariff rates, which is now causing a shortage in their industry. Remember, these are all running off of a harvest schedule, just like farmers and everything. So depending on what countries it's in, they get harvested at different times. I mentioned the Darjeeling was autumn time compared to spring, compared to the end of autumn, or compared to the second flush and then autumn. So depending on when it's picked, when the tariffs hit, it doesn't necessarily matter, because all of a sudden these ones from the futures markets, all of a sudden are all getting bought up because they can't afford the ones on the higher tariffs, forcing a lot of companies to blend in and substitute stuff in their blends. So it isn't necessarily a bad or worse coffee or tea of what it is. It's just that, hey, there's still supply of this left. The demand is high, and it's now pushing these prices up. Let's get this first before the prices get up, and then we can go back to this.
Perhaps we can take the next questions personally, because we're out of time.
Yeah, thank you. And this was the last one. There was only a couple pots mentioned there. I asked you the questions, and that was it. Perfect
Yeah,
timing.
so it's a big round of applause. You'll stay a little bit longer.
I'm staying here for a little bit for questions.
Excellent.
Please drink up this stuff up and take the samples. I got more here.
Perfect, and if you're not staying for more questions, please put your chair in the back. Thank you.
Thank you.